and they shoot this grappling hook type head out of their proboscis. 4 fangs dig in, and then with those fangs, they inject venom. That venom paralyzes and sometimes even stops the heart of its victim. And then they sit there and slurp up the innards like a slushie. Now, okay, this is really cool. You see how it's completely slinked out like this? Notice that coloration. You see how purple it is?
Yeah.
It's all peach colored here and purple here. That's why they're called bloodworms, because their insides are actually dark red and the skin is semi-translucent, and you can see that coloration right through there. Wow, that's cool.
You can see like little bubbles running through the body.
Yeah, isn't that wild? Look down the side of its body there. You see how it looks like those spikes coming off?
Looks like hairs.
Yeah, those are parapodia. They're like little feet that help this creature to burrow and also to keep its balance if it's in deep water.
5 facts about the platypus that will blow your mind. The last one is truly wild. Number 1, platypuses don't have a true stomach. Instead, their food passes through a pouch, then goes straight to the intestines. Number 2, the platypus glows blue-green under an ultraviolet light. Nobody knows why. Number 3, unlike all other mammals, platypuses don't have nipples. Number 4, the platypus lays eggs, one of only 5 mammals to do so. Number 5, female platypuses have 1 hole for all their business. Yep, all of it.
Things human were never meant to see, part 18. Now here is a video with irrefutable proof of demons at work. Now watch closely. Performing such a feat defies gravity, something scientifically and physically impossible. Here is where it gets really interesting. Look closely. You notice that black shadow or demon behind him? Again, performing this is totally impossible without the help of that entity. Did you see it? The demon has been behind, assisting him all the while. Climbing up invisible steps. Just how did he do this? Can you make out that translucent pair of black hands catching him? So, how did this little boy pull off all of these impressive stunts? Is he dabbling with black arts and demons? The ending is really interesting as the demon finally shows itself. So, is this demons at work? As always, you decide.
Taking your phone and then putting your hand over your mouth is dirtier than drinking toilet water. Here are some interesting facts you need to know. The last one will shock you. Someone pretends to be your friend, but in reality, cannot stand you. It's the 4th person who appears when you click on share and then on more. Strangely, although we constantly use our phones, we never see them in our dreams, even if we always have them in hand. Comment, "I dream of," and let your autocorrect finish the sentence. Did you know that mosquitoes, because of the diseases they transmit, have caused more deaths than all wars combined? When you can't get a song out of your head, maybe a spirit is trying to send you a message through it. Broccoli contains more vitamin C than oranges, which means you could fight a cold with broccoli soup rather than orange juice. Tsundoku is the act of acquiring books and never reading them. Before revealing the last fact, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss anything. A man named Walter Summerford was struck by lightning 3 times during his life. After his death, his tombstone was also struck.
Scary facts you wish you never knew. It's very uncommon, but there have been many cases of people's intestines being ripped out from vacuum toilets on airplanes. So make sure to always stand up before you flush. A 58-year-old man living in Japan alone started hearing strange noises at night, and things around his house started moving around. So he decided to install a hidden camera and found out a woman had been living in his attic and cupboard for over a year. And the scary part is when he was checking the footage on his couch, she was actually in the cupboard right next to him. TikTok has a secret emoji. Type drool with the bars around it and see what you unlock. Until 2004, it was assumed the giant squid was only a myth, meaning there could be a handful of sea monsters we have yet to discover roaming the depths of the ocean. People with blue eyes are more likely to experience sleep paralysis more than anyone else. Now you can check if your phone activity is being monitored. just click on share, slide to the very end and click more. And if any unknown apps appear before your contacts, delete them immediately. In 2013, Zac Efron was running through his house with socks on when he slipped and smashed his face so hard on his granite counter. It shattered his jaw and almost ended his life. He was knocked unconscious, and when he woke up, half his chin was hanging off his face. People then accused him of plastic surgery, but Zac Efron claimed that his cheek muscles overgrew to compensate for the muscles that were permanently damaged from the injury. If you like and follow me, you'll get smarter every day.
Disturbing things you didn't know about Richard Ramirez. He gouged out Maxine Cesara's eyes after brutally murdering her and her husband. Her eyes were never located, and in court he actually laughed as they were describing the crime scene. In childhood, his father would tie him to a cross in a graveyard as a form of punishment. His trial was already bizarre, and the trial was delayed when one of the jurors was fatally shot following a dispute with her boyfriend. When Phyllis Singletary failed to show up to juror deliberations, that's when the court found out that she'd been murdered. Richard Ramirez had nasty teeth. In one of his stolen cars, they found a business card for a dentist office. And when they called, they found out that he'd been in for x-rays and was scheduled to come back. And this is so frustrating. The police officers set up a button that the employees could press to discreetly alert them once Richard walked in. And they did, but for whatever reason, it didn't alert them. So the appointment ended and he walked away. Because of the brutality and lack of remorse, he was sentenced to 19 death sentences. But he died of cancer at San Quentin Prison in 2013, which means he was imprisoned at the same time and place as Scott Peterson. I wonder if they ever talked. If you have a case you'd like me to talk about, let me know in the comments and follow for more.
Terrifying facts you never knew. The last fact will make your jaw drop. Science says that if you can't fall asleep at night, then you are awake in someone else's dream. People who stay up late and get up late are more likely to become psychopaths. Wherever you are, someone has died in that exact spot. Most laughs you hear on TV are from the 50s, which means you're hearing dead people. The Dyatlov Pass incident. 9 hikers died under mysterious circumstances, their tent slashed from the inside. The Hinterkaifeck murders saw an entire family brutally slaughtered on their remote German farm, with no motive ever discovered. If you follow me, you won't encounter someone invisible in the next 24 hours. Albert Fish, an American serial killer, boasted that he killed in every state and claimed to have had over 100 victims. What makes him even more sickening is that he sent letters to his victims' parents to tell them how good their children tasted.
Just when I thought I heard about all the worst cults in history, this one had to come and blow them out of the water. This is Colonia Dignidad. They were a German torture cult hiding out in the Chilean wilderness after World War II, aka Yazis. And to show you how terrible they were, let me tell you a story. Now, as a quick reminder, if you want more info, you can check out the podcast. The leader of this cult was a known child abuser, and he wanted more Chilean boys to be brought to him. So he started a hospital in the community and used it as a trafficking system to get more children. One day, a young Chilean boy choked and was rushed to the hospital. And right when he got there, a nurse scooped him up, brought him to a room, and saved his life. But later that day, his sister arrived and asked a nurse when she could pick him up to take him home. And the nurse responded that they needed to monitor him for a few more days, which is pretty suspect in a choking case. So a few days later, she comes back and she's like, okay, can I get my brother? And the nurse tells her that he's not there anymore. And this is because the hospital had lawyers on staff that were drafting up adoption paperwork when young boys would come in. The cult was able to legally adopt boys in the community without the parents' consent, and the parents had not enough money to do anything about it. There are so many more stories about this place, and I had never heard of it before, so make sure you check out this week's episode for more info.
Terrifying facts you never knew. If your immune system ever found out that you have eyeballs, you would go blind. Which means right now your immune system has no clue that you can see. Because if it did, they would attack your eyeballs until you could no longer ever see. This is because your eyeballs have a protein in them called crystalline that doesn't exist anywhere else in your body. So if your immune system found out and checked them out, it would be like, something's wrong here. Studies show that most serial killers are born in November. Today's high school students have the same anxiety levels as insane asylum patients had in the 1950s. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, my anxiety might be up there too. There's a disease called fatal familial insomnia, where people suddenly one day lose their ability to fall asleep, which leads them to slowly go insane. They can't distinguish dreams from reality anymore and go into some type of paranoia. It becomes so severe that they eventually die. Those that make it to the final stage and don't die usually end up in a vegetated state, no longer conscious. And it can happen to any one of you. About 3,000 people go missing every year in the United States. The last execution by guillotine was in 1977. This was in France. And also that was the same same year the first Star Wars movie came out. You are always 6 minutes away from death, but breathing resets the clock. In 2011, Anatoly Yakovlevich was arrested for having 12 dolls in his apartment. Only problem is, they weren't normal dolls. They were recently deceased little girls that had been dug up and dressed to be put on display. In 2012, a Burger King employee anonymously posted this to 4chan. It said, "This is the lettuce you eat at Burger King." It only took 20 minutes for people to track down the branch that he worked at, and he was fired. You really never know what people are doing to your food. H.H. Holmes was a serial killer who built a torture hotel in the 19th century. He had secret rooms with gas chambers, trap doors, and stairs that led to nowhere. He loved to play with his victims' minds. It was almost like a real-life Saw movie. There's a bridge in Scotland called the Overtoun Bridge, and for some reason, dogs keep jumping off of it at the same spot. Yeah, they just jump to their deaths. Experts can't figure out why either. Some people speculate it's a magnetic field or maybe a frequency that only they can hear, but others believe it's something supernatural. But whatever is making dogs jump off that bridge to their deaths is still to this day unexplained. Joe Matheny was an infamous serial killer who not only cooked his victims to eat for himself, but also made them into burgers using their remains. He then sold them to unsuspecting customers from a roadside food stand. We really never know what we eating. I'm cooking all my food myself. That's why I don't eat over people's house. In 2021, a new homeowner was shocked to find a boarded up wall. When he ripped the boards off the wall, he discovered a hole. In that hole was a doll clutching a note. The note saying that she killed a family who lived there in the 1960s. Be honest, would you move out? In 1978, there was a pilot named Frederick Valentin. Him and his plane disappeared in Australia. His last communication was, "Melbourne, that strange aircraft is hovering above me again." It is hovering and it is not an aircraft. This is a mugshot of William West and William West. Oh, and they're not related at all, but they were both sent to Leavenworth Prison at the exact same time in 1903. And after some confusion, the staff finally figured it out. They were two different people who had the exact same name and looked identical. This was said to be one of the main reasons why we now use fingerprints to identify somebody. There's biotech being developed as we speak that can make prisoners feel they are serving an 1,000-year sentence in a matter of 8 hours. That's horrifying. Imagine thinking you spent 1,000 years somewhere, and then when you wake up and snap out of it, you realize that it was only a couple hours. Do you know how crazy that is? Anyways, like this video if you want a part 2.